what you said on paper.
I wish that I could freely dream and be judged from within, haunted by a power that cannot see past my skin. My views are viewed as ignorant, my truth always denied. My history is shrouded in a spider web of lies. Isn't this America?
All right, welcome back to At the Round Table with MAMLEO. I'm your host, Larry Ellison, in studio with my brother, Dr. Bradley. Yes, he is on a little lunch break already this morning. So if you don't see Dr. Bradley over there, it's because the meals are on their way. So Dr. Bradley is already on his required mandatory coffee break. Oh, there he is.
I stay here for
He stay here until the door rings.
Yeah, I stay here for a few hours.
If you see a blank screen on if it's gone dark on your screen, Dr. Bradley has left. Not the building. He has left over there. But say good morning. And the calling number here is 617-282-0685. 617-282-0685 is the calling number here at the station. Also, we want to thank our sponsor, Guarantee Rate Mortgage Company. For all your mortgage needs, give branch manager Cora Holbrook a call at area code 781-342-0252. Guarantee Mortgage is located at 75 State Street in downtown Boston, Mass. Guarantee Mortgage Rate, guaranteed to exceed your expectations. We want to welcome in our guest here. Happy to have, like I said, our sponsor is on the way, Cora Holbrook from Guaranteed Rate. And she is always funneling in fantastic guests. So we want to welcome back to At the Round Table with MAMLEO, Marie Presti. She's a broker and principal of the Presti Group. She's going to be speaking about grants given to nonprofit organizations annually by the Greater Boston Association of Realtors and Placemaking Grant National Association of Realtors. Marie is the chair of the GBAR Grants and treasurer of the NAR. She's going to explain to you what those acronyms mean and what she does. Like I said, we want to welcome her back. Marie Presti, good morning. How are you? It's good to see you.
You too. You too. It's great. I know I was here a few years ago. Yeah. And so I'm honored to come back and talk about a different topic today.
Okay. Well, listen, let's get right into it. Like I said, because let me just set this up because, Dr. Bradley, we're always trying to find funding in the community. And then a lot of times, even when these grants are available, people have a difficult time navigating to get them, or usually people feel like the fix is in, right? That the same people continually get them once they get into the system. So explain exactly, if you could, what you do.
Yes.
We'll get into that. And then talk a little bit more about the grants and the availability and how one can apply.
Okay, great. So my name is Marie Presti, and I am a real estate broker. I practice in the greater Boston area. Been in the business for over 22 years. And
she only looks 24.
I'm old. So.
And she didn't want to be on camera.
I didn't, so I'm sorry.
No, you're great.
I didn't realize this today. But anyway, and so I am a realtor leader, and I'm a past president of the GBAR stands for Greater Boston Association of Realtors.
Okay.
So that's all my volunteer work that I do. It's like
just
a part-time
like
job,
here,
just
right?
like this here,
Yeah.
exactly. Mm-hmm. And so as part of that volunteer leadership, I was past president, and I continue to serve in a variety of different ways. I was 2 years as the Massachusetts Association of Realtors treasurer, and we do a lot of different things for the community.
Okay.
So this particular year, I am chair of the Charitable Grants Committee for the Greater Boston Association of Realtors. So in that role, my role, I have a committee of realtors across all of Greater Boston, which is 64 communities, downtown Boston and all the suburbs. And we solicit grants into our organization, and we make decisions on who's going to get those grants. So I wanted to describe two different types of grants that we offer to the community, because I think a lot of consumers and buyers and sellers and residents of the Greater Boston area aren't even aware of what these grants are and what the guidelines are.
I'm putting my hand up. I'm one of them.
Yes, exactly. So I figured if I could come here and explain a little bit about them, then more people who could qualify and want to do it may apply for future grants.
May I make a recommendation, though?
Yes.
May we just kind of explain what a grant is?
Yes.
Because I think it's important that there may be some confusion.
Yes. So a grant through the Greater Boston Association of Realtors is basically free money. Think of it that way, okay?
That's a good way of putting it.
The phones just start ringing out.
I know, exactly. It's free money. It's money that we, as an association, raise money, and we fundraise all throughout the year. Realtors will give money, but our buyers, our sellers, everybody contributes to this fund, and the fund is a charitable fund, and then we collect all of this money, and then we give it out to the community.
Okay.
So it is basically money that we give to do certain purposes. So let me describe the first type of grant.
Okay.
So the first grant, we call it our charitable grants, and because we are realtors, we are trying to help everyone get in a home and be in a home and live in a home. We want them to have, we think of the three basic needs, right? Housing, clothing, and food. And so if we can help members of Greater Boston have that, one of those three basic needs, we feel we're helping the Greater Boston community do better. So the first category, we call it, is just our regular community grants, which means any nonprofit who would qualify could apply for a grant. And generally speaking, we give out anywhere from $1,000 to $2,500 free money to be used for housing assistance, meal programs, clothing programs, anything that involves housing.
Okay.
So this year, we had over 20 applications for those grants, and we analyzed them, the committee, and then we decided what's the right situation. So how did we analyze them? Like, we wanted to make sure they were, number one, in our jurisdiction, which is within the 64 communities. Number two, we wanted to know if a realtor sponsored this grant. So if anyone out there is interested in something, they could always call me and use me as their sponsor, and we could talk about what that means. But if there's a connection to a realtor, so if they know of a local realtor, they could say, hey, will you apply for me and or endorse me into it? We want to make sure that it has to do with helping. It's an official nonprofit, and that the money would be put towards good use. In other words, is it going to actually help families to get housing,
right,
and that sort of thing.
So let me jump in here for a second. Again, callers, you're listening at the Roundtable with MAMLEO. The call-in number here is 617-282-0685. 617-282-0685 is the call-in number. Like I said, we are honored and actually pleased to have with us this morning Maria Pressey. She is it's the broker and principal of the Pressey Group, a nonprofit, and heading up a nonprofit. So when you were just speaking about, and I just want to go back a little bit when you were talking about grants for home ownership. Because see, there was a study, I don't know if you saw it several years ago, the Boston Globe talked about the net worth of black families in Boston was $8 compared to $247,000. And it was interesting to me because I became a homeowner, fortunately, at the age of 19. So I didn't know what I was getting into. But the reason I flagged that is because when that came up, a lot of my friends who were not homeowners were saying, see, these people get these better jobs. And I knew the worth had nothing to do with the jobs they had, but the homes they may have purchased several years ago. So when you're talking about the home ownership piece, how much and how does one get to qualify for a grant with your organization for home ownership? Because that seems to be where we're lagging in these communities.
Well, this grant program I'm talking about is not to help one individual buy a home. So just so you know. Okay. So this is actually to help a nonprofit organization with their home ownerships. There are other grants out there through the city of Boston and through other local communities to give grants to individuals to help them buy a home. Okay. So the grant program I'm speaking about is for a nonprofit, such as, let me just tell you, for example, we just awarded a grant to here in this area to the Friends of Boston's Homeless in Boston. So we just awarded them a $2,500 grant for this year to help people who are homeless with the homeless shelter. So we did do that.
Okay.
Other types of grants we've given is, for example, one of the grants we gave was to the Mission of Deeds in Reading, and their job is to provide mattresses to people who need it, who are living in not necessarily the shelters, but in the next step.
Okay, so your grants are due to help organizations who are helping people.
Exactly.
Okay, got it.
Exactly.
Got
That's
it,
what
got
this
it.
particular
So
program
that
is.
organization becomes the feeder
The feeder.
Yeah.
for those folks who are in need, so that they're warehousing their issues.
And we're helping them get to the next step of then getting
So
their own home.
Once these grants are awarded, are there restrictions to the recipient of the grant?
Yeah, well, typically when you apply for the grant, it asks, how are you going to use the money?
Okay. Mhm.
Right? So we analyze how you're going to use the money. So sometimes we'll put in the letter that we want you to use it the way you said you were going to use
Right,
it, right? But typically it's a check that you get cut to the organization, and then the organization spends it the way they said they were going to.
Is there any oversight as it relates to any auditing or anything like that to make sure that they use the money appropriately? Inconsistent with what they said.
Generally, no. Generally, no. But, we are looking for everyone to, to do what they say they're going to do.
Okay.
But we also, we have gone through some applications, and we felt that they said they were going to use the money for like overhead, that sort of thing. And we're thinking, okay, we really want the money to go to the people. So we have restricted the money, and we've said instead of it going to pay for salaries, right, we want it to go to the food, or we want it to go to the mattresses, or we want it to go for the the clothing that you're going to do.
But so like, let's say like a, organization, and they do provide it, but they, there's an expense for operating, right, for gas and for maintenance of the vehicle. That would be allowable.
That usually is allowable, because that's providing the gas to get to the house to help the
That's
consumer.
right. So okay.
But like one of the grants that we gave this year is to the neighborhood of affordable housing in East Boston, and that helps. That money is going to help teach homeownership classes to the homeowners. So if you're thinking you want to buy a home, but you don't know how to go about doing it, you could take this class, this first-time home buyer class, and it teaches you what you need to do. Back to your point, Larry, that you wanted to say, how can we get more Black families to buy homes and get them in there? So
Knowledge is
I
power.
have a question. If you had an individual who was going to establishments to collect food, put the food in his car, and then drive the food to a location where it can be distributed, could that individual apply for one of these grants?
if they are 501(c), because the organization
Okay,
has
they
to
gotta
be
be
an
right.
official
Okay, okay,
nonprofit.
So that's
Yeah.
how we, like with Jamal, we work through, and that's
Yeah.
what I'm saying is I think that someone like him who is doing that, he's getting his food, but there's an expense for him.
Right.
Associated with that,
To in what you just said, seems like it would be under those guidelines of being able
So
to
have
provide.
that person affiliate
right.
with one
nonprofit.
of the nonprofits,
Yes,
exactly.
okay.
And so what we've noticed over the years is that these grants have actually gone to like new initiatives that these organizations are trying to do, but they don't have the money to do it. And someone like yourself or somebody in the community comes up with an idea and they say, hey, we should be doing this.
Right.
And then they go through an existing nonprofit to apply. And so the application comes in saying, we want to do this new initiative, and this money's going to help that new initiative,
Yeah.
right? So if you've got an idea, go to the organization that you're,
Affiliated with.
affiliated with, and have them apply. And
Got it.
then you could spearhead some new idea that
Okay.
could get funded.
Okay.
All right, Marie, let's grab this call right quick. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the roundtable with MAMLEO. I'm Marie Pressey. You have a question or comment?
Yes, good morning. This is T. Michael Thomas from the People's Academy.
All right.
Hey, T. Michael, how are you, brother?
Good. I had a question. Do you guys give grants for trade apprenticeship job creation programs?
Well, that's an interesting question.
So, before she answers, T. Michael, give her a little bit more meat on the bone
Yeah.
as to what you're providing, because I think she, saying it just the way you said it, didn't explain it to her because you do a lot more than that. Like T. Michael is with the People's Academy. I don't know if you're aware of it, but he offers a training aspect out of his home. He's trying to teach people a trade, but he also provides them with food, and he's trying to build a location at Warren and Townsend. He's acquired the land, so he's trying to build it so they can learn the trade, but also he's going to be providing housing. So he does a little bit more than just the trade.
So I mean, it sounds like a great cause, if you ask me initially on initial hearing. But my question to you is, are you officially a nonprofit?
Yes, a 501c3.
Perfect. Okay. So, I mean, if you're providing, guidance and training to people to get jobs to then buy housing, to me, it's all kind of
it's connected.
It's
right?
all connected. So I encourage you to apply, so for this particular grant program, it would be for 2024. So we would want you to apply, and then potentially, because we give this particular program, we give the grants out in the spring.
I was going to say, when would be the startup for the new cycle?
January of 2024.
Okay.
So keep us in mind. I want to give you the website to go to. It's www.gbar/GBAR/grants.
So now, is there a minimum and a maximum on the grants that are given out?
Well, so we fundraise all year. So right now in 2023, we are fundraising for 2024.
Okay.
So I don't know what the total amount of money is that we're going to be able to give out. But in 2023, we gave out $40,000 of money. So it's a lot of money to give out. But we won't give $40,000 to one organization. Right. Typically, we would give somewhere between $1,000 and $2,500 to one organization. So if you can think about for the caller, if you can think about, what would you do with that $2,500 and be specific when you fill out the application, it goes a long way versus just saying, we're just going to, it's like if you actually can say, this will help 100 people get trained in job training, and we're going to feed them while they're here. We're training them to have a job.
As specific as you possibly can
yes,
be.
Yes, it's going to really help, because when we read it, we'll understand exactly what you're trying to do.
What was the website again?
Okay, so I'm going to repeat it because it is a little long. It's www.gbreb.com, and then the / and then GBAR, and then another / grants, GRANTS.
I'll take a snapshot of it for you, pass
Yes.
the house.
Okay.
Send it to you.
I know, if I could put it in the screen, I would, yeah.
What's the organization's name again?
GREB, Greater Boston Real Estate Board. So
You can go in and Google that.
yeah, you can Google
You
that.
can Google
Greater
that.
Boston Real Estate Board, because the Greater Boston Association of Realtors is the largest division of the Greater Boston Real Estate Board. So again, it's all real estate related. We're trying to get people, to get into homes, and sometimes it's not always about home. It is home ownership, but it's even as much as getting them off the streets and into homes, right? So apartments and rentals are usually the start, right? We just don't. So we could help we can help the homeless. We can help those who just need food, who may not, be homeless, but they need help with food. It could be that they need help with some other way, and job training to me sounds like a perfect opportunity. So thank you for the call, because I'd love to see your application next year.
All right, Team Microsoft,
Yes,
go ahead. You got a follow-up? Sure.
Yes, one quick thing, please. If Larry, can you please give her my information? I'd like to sit with her. Also, great show, and I will be listening. Thank you.
Appreciate it. See, this was saying, we like to be, helpful and informative here, and folks would call. I knew folks would start calling in, because there is a huge need for it. I guess I know people they're terrorized and fearful of just trying to go through the process.
Yes.
Right, and so you're saying that they can go through another nonprofit who's more familiar, but even sometimes, like even MAMLEO, we don't have a grant writer. Right. So, and a lot of times this process requires particular language, as you said. Like if he was saying, I knew exactly what he was looking for,
but you had to pull it out of him, right?
Right. If you can't articulate that.
And so that's true. And when we review the applications, we actually prefer the smaller organizations, because that $2,500 goes a longer way with a smaller organization than it will with the bigger ones who have the grant writers. So we do give money to some of the bigger organizations, but when we read it, we look at actually their taxes, and we want to know if they're too big for us, that $2,500 doesn't go a long way with them. We'll probably end up wanting to select a smaller organization. So, and then one more thing I wanted to mention, which is even if the Greater Boston Association of Realtors doesn't have enough money to provide to a particular organization, we can recommend to the state level that they give a grant. So we had, this year, we had too many applications. We couldn't give money to all of them, but we ended up forwarding 3 of the ones we couldn't give money to, and we sent them up to the state, and they all got $1,000 from the state level. So there's lots of...
Something is better than
yes,
nothing, right?
exactly. Yeah. So we had 3 organizations, Victory Program of Boston, Community Cooks of Somerville, and Project Just Because of Hopkinton. They all got $1,000 from the state level. They didn't. We didn't put them through for the $2,500 at the local level. So there's a couple of ways to still get something.
That's excellent.
Oh, wow.
So I wanted to, the next type of grant,
go
can
right
I
ahead.
talk
Yeah,
about it?
yes, you can.
All right, so the next grant application or type of grant I wanted to talk about was something called a placemaking grant. And this is a completely different grant. It has not necessarily anything to do with housing per se, but it's to better the community. So the placemaking grant, it's a new term, but it reflects a traditional and conventional concept. It's made of an old idea simply by creating a place in the community where people will want to visit. That's kind of our focus for placemaking grant. So these placemaking grants are meant to make your community, all of our communities, more welcoming, more attractive, aesthetically pleasing, more usable, more accessible for people to come in. So it could have to do, to turn a space that was dark and dingy and light it up and do something kind of cool. It could be to, there has to be a reason of how to make, it could be to take an empty, vacant, unsafe, dysfunctional, underused lot and turn it into a basketball court. It could be to take an area that was just dirt and try to turn it into a park bench. Now, to do that kind of work takes, a lot of money. So typically with the national, and this is all through our National Association of Realtors, okay? So this is at the national level, but we at the local level has to recommend them to the national. Okay. All right, so I want to give you an example of one that actually happened right here, but it was about 6 or 7 years ago. So it's been a long time since we've gotten an application from downtown Boston area, and I wanted to kind of encourage people to think about this. So a couple of years ago, there was an application, and it was in Codman Square. Right down the street, exactly. And it was the narrative is New England Avenue Art Path. And I don't know if you know where that is, but it was intended to bring engagement, wonder, and improve safety along the block of New England Ave. So for those of you who know New England Ave, there was an abandoned building there. An artist was going to place a community-approved light boxes made out of fabric and 4 windows in the building. So it was meant to make that particular block better. And we, the National Association, we recommended them to national. And in order to do that, we, at the local level, contribute so much money. So we contributed $2,500, and then national matched us $2,500. So we were able to give them $5,000 to do that. And since then, the grants have gone up. So I'm mentioning this just because this happened before, and I was trying to give an idea. I live in the town of Stoneham, and I recommended to have, they were doing a bike path. The town, it was a tri-community bike path. But there were no bike racks and there were no picnic tables along the bike path. They had all they could do just to put the bike path in. So I recommended, and I wrote with the help of the CDC in Stoneham. So there was a woman who helped me write the grant application. And so you can always get help with grant writing, by the way. Never not apply because you don't have a grant writer, because we'll get you help somehow, some way. And so I'm not a grant writer, so I solicited someone who was a grant writer who could help me write out the application. And so we wrote out the application, and we applied to put bike racks and picnic tables along 2 areas, and we got $2,500 was granted by our local association, and then we got it matched by national. So that's another second kind of idea of what we could do. So I am mentioning it because that deadline is August 1st. So that's coming up.
Okay, and so people can apply to that same website for that grant?
Yes, yes. And so, because if you go to that same website, and it will say placemaking grants or charitable grants, so you would choose that one. And again, they can always call me, and I can give you my information as well, so they can have, I can give you my information, which you have, and we could help them write the grant application.
617-282-0685 is the number, 617-282-0685. You're listening to At the Round Table with MAMLEO. So one other way that be helpful, like this station here, like I said, Dr. Bradley and I, Pastor Haas, we don't get compensated. How can organizations such as yours help to continue to fund this voice here? Because this is an important part of getting that information. So, like, would we be eligible for a grant or some type of sponsorship to continue to bring this information to the public, to these communities?
So I don't know whether the radio station or yourselves would qualify for the first grant, but it's a thought, because you do talk about real estate once a month,
and we bring people in who are in issues not just germane to our organization, but to subject matter, things that are happening in the community that we talk.
And you're a nonprofit,
exactly,
right? So, I first of all, I'm not the decision maker, just so everybody knows. I'm not the one saying yay or nay. I'm the chair, and so as the chair, I actually don't have a vote unless it's a tie.
Okay.
So, but my job this year is to get the word out, and let people come in, and then I have a whole committee of like 15 people who read and go from there. So.
To that end, our founder and CEO, Pastor Bruce Wall of Boston Praise Radio and TV Network, Boston Black News, and 102.9 FM. He is tuned in and he's listening and appreciating this information, and posed the question, what about your organization purchasing time on our station to educate the community on an ongoing basis?
Yeah, the Presti Group, in other words.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that he's listening right on radio. Right on cue. And it's funny you say that, because Cora and I have talked about that, and I would not have come back here if I didn't believe in your station, number one. And I am happy to be a sponsor of you, which we had talked about before. I had already talked to Cora about wanting to do that. So I was going to do it off air, but now you got me committed on air.
Now the whole world knows.
Yes, exactly. So, and I don't know the details of it, so we'll have to talk afterwards.
Absolutely.
But I had said to Cora that I do believe in you guys. You are getting the word out. I appreciate your time and effort to make that happen, and you're doing a great thing for the community. So the community should really appreciate all that you do. So thank you for that. So, I want to put my money where my mouth is as well.
And we appreciate
that. To help you. So
we definitely appreciate that.
So again, folks, you listen at the round table. Our guest in studio, Marie Presti from the
Presti Group.
She's talking about grants here, and she, as like I said, has said, hey, she is going to step up. She believes in this station, she believes in the work that we're doing, and she believes in the community, and they want to give back, and we appreciate that.
And I want everyone to be a homeowner. I want everyone to be a homeowner, and there's no reason why you shouldn't be a homeowner. There are steps you have to take. There's a lot of work involved to make that happen, and you've got to take the baby steps. And my opinion is you have to start small and do small steps, whether it be with your credit score, whether it be with saving a little bit of money, whether it be researching what opportunities you have for getting grants, or
as you alluded to, is that first-time home buyers course. That is so invaluable. I took that even though I knew knowledge, and I learned so much, and that's what a lot of times is daunting and intimidating to people is they don't know, and they feel like even the cost. I mean, there are places that run it for free, and then some that is a minimal charge. But I tell people it's a nice investment, because a lot of times you learn things about the process that a lot of times most people, the most they know about a transaction is when the lawyer is saying sign here, and they don't know. You learn a lot about the documents,
what you're signing,
exactly, and what you need to, because like even when Cora is on here, a lot of times, and we talk about the importance of credit scores, things that don't get talked about when you go to a realtor, a lot of times realtors, nothing against them, but they're there to sell the house, and they don't get to that point until you decide whether or not you want it, and now we find out that you don't even qualify. So I think it's a great service that would be something that would be able to participate in one of these grants that is teaching people about home ownership.
And one thing I want to mention is not all realtors are alike.
No,
so as you talked about,
they're like used car salesmen.
Yeah. Well, and I'm not one of those.
No,
used car
you're
salesmen,
not. No,
so I just want you to know that. And most of
you wouldn't be here.
And the best realtors are not that way. They are
that's true. That's
very interested in helping people get to that step, and they will encourage them. And not only that, but I, as an example, and I'm not the only one who does this, but I teach real estate first-time home buyer classes.
Okay.
So I'd like to even talk to you about that
Sure.
at some point. But
Well, we're
I
not
know,
gonna
I
let
think
you
we have
get
a
away.
caller.
We
Yeah.
do, yeah. Look at she's always. Go ahead. We're gonna take the rest of the morning off. Marie is. Go ahead. Marie has a caller. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the At the Round Table with Marie.
Good morning.
Well,
Good morning,
featuring Marie.
Yeah, featuring. Good morning, sir.
Yes, I have a question.
Okay.
My question is, does she have any website or email address for me to contact her about learning more about trying to get a down payment assistance grant? And yes, I do have the homeowner certificate from the city of Boston. No?
Oh, that's great. That's awesome. So yeah, well, so certainly I have a website. It's www.theprestigroup.com. And
You say that slowly because a lot of us can't write that fast.
Gotcha. Okay. I know. I'm Italian. I talk very, very fast. So www.the, which is THE, Presti, which is my last name, PRESTI, and then group, GROUP.com, COM.
So before you go back to him for a second, because I've always been. So once you get that certificate, does it expire? The homeowner certificate that you receive, is there an expiration?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Not that I'm aware of. You just have to go through that training program and get it. Now, the grants, if he's talking about getting the grant assistance, there may be a period of like 2 years or something like that. So I'd have to check into his particular housing voucher to find out what he's given in a grant program. But I teach first-time home buyer classes myself, and it's not the official to give you grants, but it just gets you the overall. So it's not as long as the official. There's several official ones that are through some CDC programs, community development.
And how many hours are usually?
So my class can be anywhere from, I teach, like this summer I'm going to be teaching one, and you can get access to my class on that website. You can go to, classes. I have a link that says classes, and then it'll show you the upcoming classes. So mine in the summer usually only do 3 hours. It's like one night because I don't think I can get people to go in the summer longer than that.
Right.
But in the fall, sometimes I'll do a 6 hour. So I'll do 2 3-hour classes, like, two Tuesday nights in a row. But with, like, for example, NOAA, which was the East Boston program, and they also, Asian CDC has a program in downtown Boston. I know the Boston Community Development has one. Alston Brighton Community Development Program has one. So many area has these first-time homebuyer classes, and that's what they're trying to do. Is they're trying to educate you, like you said, number one, on what you need to do to get approved for a mortgage, and that's really, kind of the first step, right? Because if you're not going to get approved, why go look, like you said, why go look out at properties? But how do you get approved, and what are the steps to get approved? Because it is your credit score, but it's also in some cases your job. Do you have a secure job? Are you getting a W-2 every year from your employer, or are you independent? Are you an independent contractor? Because if you're an independent contractor, let's say you work for yourself and you're a landscaper, well, it's a little harder because they want to see your taxes for the last 2 years to make sure you're fully qualified. So there's a lot more involved than if you can just get at the end of the year a tax form from your employer that says how much you made.
Yeah.
So,
Now, are these classes in person or online or both?
both. So each class you have to find out which one they are.
Okay.
So during COVID, everything was online, as we all know, right? So we all went to, that Zoom approach. For those of you who know what Zoom is, but it's an online video platform. So we all did that online to teach. But I will tell you, my personal opinion is that going in person is much, much better.
Right, especially for something like this.
Yes,
very
because you can meet the
detail-oriented.
instructor if you have extra questions. When you're on a Zoom and you have a question, it's sometimes very hard if there's 50 people in a classroom on Zoom to then can ask your specific questions. So I suggest doing an in-person one if you can.
Carl, do you have a follow-up for her?
Yes, why is she doing this? Huh?
Why am I doing this? You know, it's a great question, and I believe in helping you and everybody else who's listening. And most realtors are this way, and that's one of the reasons I want to come here, because you have like a branding of what realtors are, and you said they can be like used car salesmen. We're not that way. No. We're not. Most of us are not that way. Right. We're here to be in our community, to help better our community, and to help everyone get in a home. So if I can do this and get one more person to take a class and get into a home, that to me is helping our entire community, and that's what I want to do. So and I'm not getting paid for this, for the record.
And we don't either. And that's it's like any profession. Like we take the hits all the time. Those of us who are in public safety, right, where one person does something and then we all get painted with the same brush. But there are good people. So what we try to do is extract those good people, bring them here that are in those different professions to say, this is why it's always helpful when you have someone who is vouching for that person. That's why we send people to Cora, because we know her reputation, right? She's going to be fair with them. We understand that is her business, but I'd rather
she's going to treat them right.
Exactly.
And she has. And I've worked with Cora many times, and that's how we know each other. And she gives back a lot to the community as well. And she does this to better the community. So, we're here to try to help you. We feel like if we can help a couple of people, then someone else who's listening may say, hey, realtors are not all that bad. Loan officers are not all that bad. I am trying to increase the branding of what a realtor is, and that's why I'm here, because we're not as like you said,
not as vicious as people think.
Yes, exactly.
And like I said, people have to make it. But I think I appreciate it, because in this space, our listening audience are probably the people that you want to target, the ones who are the most disadvantaged, that don't have the opportunities and don't have the resources, because a lot of times it comes with a cost for them to sit down with these people and have these type of conversations. But one quick question I want to really, because I've been getting a lot of questions from it, and maybe you may or may not have the answer, that there was some recent discussion, whether it's in effect now, I believe it is, that almost like now, if you have bad credit, now you're going to get more of an advantage if you have good credit.
Yeah. What is that about?
Right. Could you explain that to folks? Because some people feel like they want to wreck their credit now to get a better rate.
So that's what was happening with that was, there's so much money that lenders can give out, and they had set up the rules where if you had a higher credit score originally, you would get a better rate. And then the problem was a lot of, as you said, people who were working on their credit who had a lower credit was having to pay a higher interest rate. So there is a proposal on the table to change the structure so that more people who had a better credit wouldn't get as high of low as an interest rate as those who were lower. So they were kind of evening it off. Right now that actually it has not gone through.
Okay.
It has not gone through. So, and then I just heard this week that it may not go through at all. So I'm not going to tell anyone who's listening. I just want you to know that you want your credit score to be as high as possible.
I think there's two areas.
It defies logic.
It does defy logic, but I think there's two areas that I think kind of confuse people as it relates to what is necessary to buy a house. One is the credit rating. There's no question about it. I always argue you try to keep my credit rating above 750. That's me personally.
You personally. All right. Most lenders will say at least 720, but 740 is like when they change the interest. Like they'll give you the best interest rate if you're 740 or higher.
I try to go above 750.
750, okay.
So, and the other area I think is confusing is the debt ratio.
Okay.
The debt income ratio. I think people feel like, well, I have a job and I got this, but it's also how much money that you're making is being contributed to your debt that you have to cover.
I was going to say, can you just break down with Dr. Bradley on the debt credit ratio, what he is actually
explaining? Sure.
Yes.
So when he talks about the debt ratio, what that means is what is the percentage of debt that you would owe if you bought a house in relation to the income that's coming in, that you're bringing in. So most of the time, what the lenders do is they will say, okay, are you getting a W-2? How much do you make the entire year? So let's make an example. I'm going to make it really easy, and let's say it's $12,000 a year as an example, because you've divided that by 12 months, and it's $1,000 a month.
Yeah.
Okay, so if it's $1,000 a month that's coming in, then the lenders want to see not $1,000 in debt going out, because then that's zero. That's zero left over. Yeah. So usually the lenders want to see not more than 40% going out for all of your debt, all of your debt. So if you have a car loan, or you have a student loan, or you have credit card debt, that all gets added into that 40%. So if we're talking that $12,000 a year and that $1,000 a month, 40% of that is $400 total going out. Now, a lot of us make more than $12,000 a year, but I'm just using that as an analogy. Yes. So what you have to do is figure out how much do you owe every month, and what they do is they take into account your minimum monthly payment. So let's say you have a principal on your credit card of $10,000. They don't take that $10,000. They look at what your minimum monthly payment is every month, and they add that into that monthly debt. Or your car payment. Let's say you have a $200 a month car payment.
So it become critical then. If you're buying a home, it's also to manage your debt. That's the way I want to go, to make sure that you're managing your debt.
So, she said that overwhelmingly.
Yes, absolutely.
My wife and I just discussed this, like, you got to manage our debt.
Yes, so actually I advise my buyers who want to buy a home and aren't there yet and are managing their debt, that if you're getting extra money and you're trying to buy a home, you may not want to take a vacation that year that costs a lot of money. You know what I mean? Maybe do a staycation instead that year, and take the money you would have spent on a vacation and pay down your debt. So if instead of, and by the way, credit card debt is the worst, because you're usually paying anywhere from 14% to 28%, right? Every month, you're going to pay if you carry it. So what happens is your principal increases if you make the minimum monthly payment, and you think you're paying it off and you're not, because you're paying all interest.
Well, most people try to avoid looking at where it says that if you're only paying a minimum payment in that corner, that it'll take you X amount of time to pay it off, right?
Because the banks are very smart, and they give you a very low minimum monthly payment because they want that interest. Exactly. So then it's interest on interest that you're paying. So please take the money and pay down your credit card first.
So let me ask you a question. If you're someone that pays it in full every month, but you still have the outstanding accounts open, does that affect your debt ratio? Even though if you look at the history of it, it's paid in full.
It's paid in full. Typically not, but sometimes the lenders will ask you to write a letter explaining that, because they'll look at the last two statements and they'll see that you paid in full, but they want to hear from you in writing that I always pay in full every month, which is what most of you should do. And I know I do that. It's if I spend $1,000 on my credit card, I pay $1,000 with my payment that month. And then guess how much? So then I'm using their credit for a month, right?
Exactly.
Because then I get zero. I don't have to pay any interest.
And if it's an awards card, you're getting something.
Rewards, exactly. So I use it to my benefit.
There you go.
We want all of you to pay it off every month, in full if you can. And if you have a balance of all your debt, that is the first thing you should be paying down, is your credit card, not your car loan, because your car loan usually is a fixed interest and a fixed time, and not your student loan. But do work on your credit card debt first.
Oh wow, folks, you're listening at the round table. Thank you, caller. Any other final questions, or are you?
Yes, one more question.
Sure.
Does she have any other website or email address?
Any other? Yeah, we have one. We're gonna post the one that she gave us on our website, but also we'll make sure you get that as well. The one that she gave out earlier.
Yeah, my website. You can contact me, so you can just go to you can find me on theprestigroup.com, and you can click on my name, Marie Presti, and then contact me, and you can shoot me an email.
She's gonna be a regular segment here, so we'll be having her in more than just every 2 years. So she'll be a regular here on the broadcast. So we'll get her in. She can do it Zoom or remotely, so she doesn't have to drive all the way in. But it's always good to have people in person.
Oh, I like that idea. Yeah. And the other thing I want to kind of, and I'm gonna, how you put me on the spot, right? So I'm gonna kind of throw it back at you guys and say, I would love to teach a first-time homebuyer class right here in your building if you'll have me. So if you'll offer the space, then they don't have to travel far to get the first-time homebuyer class, and I'm happy to do that. So Is that true?
I'm sure.
It sounds outstanding. I am not the senior person that makes
But
that
he's
decision.
listening.
Yeah, he's
But he's
listening.
listening. So he asked me for sponsorship,
Yep.
and I'm going back and
Yeah.
saying, are you going to offer me some space so I could
Absolutely.
offer for free the first-time homebuyer
Well,
class
here's what
here?
we'll do as well. I can
That's
say
really
with
very
almost
good,
certainty that MAMLEO has a building as well, and we'd be more than happy to do it there as well.
Well, do it in both
No,
of them.
that's what I'm saying. We do it there as well,
Yeah.
right? Right.
Okay.
Because sometimes the folks that come here on church may not want to. They're comfortable and this is their space.
Right.
Yeah.
So they may not want me here teaching
No.
classes.
I'm
Oh, they
saying
might.
what I'm saying is that they may not want to travel to our
Travel too far.
location.
Right.
They know.
And
this
I want to
place.
come to you. You know, I'm happy. I'm here today, right?
Yeah,
So
right.
I don't mind. It's very close for me, by the way. It's although 8:00 in the morning is a little early to
No,
teach a
that's why
class.
we-
So I might not teach the class that early in the morning.
No,
But
and we may not be there either. It's,
But the important thing is that you're going to teach it, and
Right.
you'll be talking about those terms that people tend to confuse folks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they kind of back off.
Right.
Yeah.
And how to save the money,
Right.
where you want to put it.
Yes.
You know, and making sure that you're what is the best strategy, I should say, in terms of saving it. So you're at a particular area. I have a particular availability of funds
right.
when it's time to purchase at home.
right. At what point do
Yeah.
you think you'll be ready?
Yeah.
Right.
But,
That
but
sort of thing.
and I like having someone like you, Marie, honestly, because not only you're teaching, but then you're along for the ride, right, with them through this whole process. Because it's that relationship building. You've already taken them through that, so they're going to be more comfortable reaching out to you
Right.
on this.
And I would
journey.
say I do have a team too. So I, even if I'm, sometimes I can refer them to one of my team members to
Yeah.
help them too, who's, might be closer to where, they want to be. So.
I think that was the CEO.
Yes, the CEO has said absolutely
Oh,
yes
great.
on the air,
Excellent.
real time.
Thank you. I love that. Thank you. See, and see, this is how it works,
The
right?
angels,
Live.
the angels above.
I love that.
This has been great. This is great. Like I said, we've got some little bit of time here left over. So again, to listen to at the roundtable with MAMLEO, the calling number here is 617-282-0685. 617-282-0685. In studio with us, Marie Presti, broker and principal of the Presti Group, but also here talking about charitable grants that are available to you. What a wealth of information this morning. Pastor Javier.
Yeah, I just had a question. So, with regard to projects, big projects, like we have a vision of utilizing. The mayor's giving a lot of space, and she said she would give space to developers that are willing to be able to change those properties. And so, for proposal, like a collaborative kind of proposal, training folks who are returning citizens to do restorative justice, to build a mechanism that we can have in our community. Is that something that we could work with you to be able to have? And I'll give you an example. So even the BPDA approves comfort in conversion to homeless housing. This is in the Dorchester Reporter paper on the front page. So over on Morrissey Boulevard, the former Comfort Inns, Pine Street Inn is now partnering with them to make that housing with wraparound services 24 hours a day for formerly homeless folks to become to be housed. And so that's a great concept for those folks, but is that something, I'm seeing a collective kind of vision for the church to be able to do something kind of restorative justice, to be able to build on land.
I think it ties in because when he leaves here, you're going to a restorative justice,
Yes.
returning citizens
Yes.
program,
Yes.
right, that he's going to be attending once he leaves after the broadcast. So those are the type of things where it sounds like it's in the wheelhouse of helping people get back on their feet, helping them find housing and food, those insecurities that are plaguing them with being able to get moving in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, I love that idea. And, sometimes I can rally, because the realtors in the realtor community, we have the connections to the developers because they're usually our clients. So if we know of a particular project that you're trying to do, but it costs money to do that, as you know, it costs a lot of money.
Yes.
And so when it comes to a developer's mind, one of the things you have to think about is how are they going to make money, right? Because developers, like I'm here and you're all here, out of the goodness of our hearts, we want to help the community. But developers that's their living. They need to make money. So we need it to be a win-win for them as well. So I'm sure that project, the developers who are working with them are going to make a profit, but then it's going to help the community with the the wraparound services around that.
And speaking of that help aspect, how do we get, like, we spend a lot of money in our neighborhoods, right? And a lot of times the people that we spend it with, the groups, the organizations, the businesses, they don't give back in a meaningful way. How do we get help to you as well? Because say you're here today, you're providing a service, you're saying, look, you want to do your part to help this community, so that we can get money funneled in so that it can help others. Like, can we advocate for, like, I do business with Stop and Shop, for saying, and say, look, I have an organization. I know you may not want to contribute to me, but can you send a donation to Marie Presti's organization to help with that? I think that's Cora. Willie, you might want to get that.
Yeah, I get it.
So certainly we're fundraising for this charitable organization.
Yeah.
So, and we're the ones who raise the money. So if there are, number one, any lenders, any real estate attorneys, any insurance companies who benefit from the realtors out there doing transactions, I'd love for them to make a donation to the charitable foundation, because the Greater Boston Real Estate Board's charitable foundation is also a nonprofit. We're the ones who are giving the money out, but we're collecting the money in.
Exactly.
So if you have a Stop and Shop, or you have any other larger companies who are looking to donate, and it's a write-off for them, so they get to write it off on their taxes.
But I'm more likely, like I said, when you come in and you do your workshop with the folks at the church at MAMLEO, I'm more likely to then patronize your business if I know you're giving back to my community.
Right.
That's what I'm saying, is that I don't want this to be a take. We want to provide help and be a resource for you as well, because that builds it up, the capacity for you to help more people in the communities that need the help.
Right. So I know most of the listeners are individuals, but if they happen to own an organization and they could mention it to their owners, that it would be great to donate.
Then did you take donations from individuals as well? If somebody wanted to donate, okay.
Of course, but we get the bigger donations from the organizations who are for-profit companies. So that's who I'm trying to get to. So if any of the listeners here have a connection to a bigger organization, if you could please mention it, and then you can give them my name and they could contact me, and I could tell them, again, right on that website I already gave out, you can make a donation right from that
Marie,
website. We've
got about 2 minutes. Again, you've been listening at the round table. Thank you, caller. We appreciate Marie Presti, broker and principal of the Presti Group, nonprofit. We got about 2 minutes. Anything that we didn't cover that you want to also, we're going to give out your information again, but anything that you want to leave our listening audience with? Yes,
I think just come up with, I want to give you a couple of ideas of ways for the placemaking grants that you can do things. So some ideas I want to say are like walking tours or maps. Projects in the community could be painting, having a painting day. If you want a seating, I know one of the placemaking grants was for a bench at a dog park. So if there's a dog park out there and you need a bench at it, a banner or a community tool shed. So if there's like a gardening area that you need a tool shed on. So I'm trying to throw out, some ideas that maybe one of the listeners is like, yeah, we could use that in our local area. That would be the place, that would be an idea to kind of come back and say, hey, that's a placemaking grant. That was the second type of grant. And because we have the deadline coming up, that's why I'm trying to get those ideas in everybody's heads of how can we make this local community more positive.
All right. Well, again, our sponsors come. Corey, we got about 2 minutes. Actually, about a minute. We're gonna give it to you. Want to just say hello and want to thank you for always. No problem. Listen, you always get us fantastic guests. Always have been a resource to the community. Guaranteed Rate Mortgage. Cora Holbrook is here. Cora, want to say good morning to you. Thank you so much for all you do for the community. Folks don't know the work you do behind the scenes, so just want to give you an opportunity to say good morning.
Good morning, everybody. Sorry, Larry.
No, it's okay. It's Saturday morning. We should all be sleeping.
Yeah, and Marie, Marie can explain everything. I was listening, and she was explaining about the loans as well, and she's very well versed with everything. So nothing to add there. She did it right. But the most important thing is the charity giving.
Yes.
Please submit your nominations to nonprofit organization. I would have submitted MAMLEO because of the work that you do, but I missed the deadline. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
so
we
will do it for next year, and the community place giving as well. Let's identify a community around here where that needs the improvement, and that will.
Yeah, because our hope is to get this have it on a daily, Monday through Friday, from 6 to 9, the drive time. So that's going to take funding, but that is something that's been missing in us. We don't have a radio station like this during the week on a consistent basis. And I think that having this type of conversation is vitally
Maybe we
important.
start with 1 day a week,
exactly.
in the morning, and then go from there.
Exactly.
Yes. So Marie is a good connection for that. Great.
I don't know if you heard, Cora, but they got me on the radio committing to the sponsorship.
Yeah, we got it.
And I got them committed to offering their space to have me teach a first-time homebuyer class.
Yes, I did. I heard that over the radio.
So we have witnesses there. Folks, thank you. You've been listening at the Roundtable with MAMLEO. I'm going to thank our guest, Marie Presley, and Cora Holbrook as well. We're going to take our required break, and we'll be back at the top of the hour. Again, call the number 617-282-0685, and when we come back, we'll be talking to Judith Foster about what she's doing in the community.
Thank you so much, Larry.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Appreciate it, ladies. Have a great day.
So long, while your dog's in prison, while your baby mom's stripping, while your mom's still living in that same broken home that you used to sell piffin'. You ain't gotta lie to me to sell me a track. You ain't gotta rock fake jewels or walk around strap. I respect artists getting money, but love them for spitting crack. And the fact that one track can move a family out the trap. It's a dream for us lost souls brought up in the mix. I'm motivated by the artists coming out in my midst, and the artists that paved the way when I didn't exist. Music's a skyscraper, I'm just trying to add a couple bricks.
This is for the dream. Say I am a dreamer, cause I still believe that anything is possible as long as you work hard. Hustle real hard, hustle real hard, hustle real hard, hustle so if I never see ya, never get the chance to meet ya, no, I came up from the bottom, always rooting for the underdog.
I always dreamed I'd be on tour.